JATO is a type of assisted takeoff for helping overloaded aircraft into the air by providing additional thrust in the form of small rockets. The term JATO is used interchangeably with the term RATO for rocket-assisted takeoff. Early experiments in World War II. Early experiments using rockets to boost gliders into the air were conducted in Germany in the 1920s, and later both the Royal Air Force and the Luftwaffe introduced such systems in World War II. The British system used fairly large solid-fuel rockets to shoot planes off a small ramp fitted to the fronts of merchant ships, known in service as catapult-armed merchantmen, in order to provide some cover against German maritime patrol planes. After firing, the rocket was released from the back of the plane to fall into the water and sink. The task done, the pilot would fly to friendly territory, if possible a parachute from the plane, hopefully to be picked up by one of the escort vessels. Over 2 years the system was only employed 9 times to attack German aircraft, with 8 kills recorded for the loss of a single pilot. The Luftwaffe also used the technique with both liquid-fueled units made by the Walter firm and BMW, and solid fuel, themselves made both by the Schmieding and WSAG firms, as both firmly attached and jettisonable rocket motors, to get airborne more quickly and with shorter takeoff runs. These were used to boost the takeoff performance of the medium bombers, and the enormous Gignit Messerschmitt Me-321 glider, conceived in 1940 for the invasion of Britain, and used to supply the Russian front. The enormous Me-321s originally had RATO assistance from up to 3 Messerschmitt Bf-110 heavy fighters in a so-called Troika Schlepp arrangement into the air, with loads that would have made the takeoff run too long otherwise, but with much attendant risk of aerial collision from the trio of V-formation Bf-110s involved in a simultaneous towplane function. This became especially important late in the war, when the lengths of usable runways were severely curtailed due to the results of Allied bombing. The system typically used jettisonable, self-contained Walter HWK 109-500-501 Start-Hilf liquid-fuel monopropellant rocket engines driven by chemical decomposition of T-stop, essentially almost pure hydrogen peroxide with Az-Stoff catalytic compound. A parachute pack at the blunt contour front of the motor's exterior housing was used to slow its fall after being released from the plane, so the system could be reused. First experiments were held in 1937 on an Heinkel He-111, piloted by test pilot Erich Warsitz at Neuhardenberg, a large field about 70 kilometers east of Berlin, listed as a reserve airfield in the event of war. Other German experiments with JATO were aimed at assisting the launch of interceptor aircraft such as the Messerschmitt Me-262C. As the Heimatschütze special versions, usually fitted with either a version of the Walter HWK 109-509 liquid-fueled rocket engine from the Me-163 Comet program, either in the extreme rear of the fuselage, a semi-podded beneath it just behind the wing's trailing edge, to assist its junkers Jumo 004 turbojets, or a pair of specially rocket-boosted BMW 003R combination jet rocket power plants in place of the Jumo 004s, so that the Me-262C Heimatschütze interceptors could reach enemy bomber formations sooner. 2 prototypes of the Heimatschütze versions of the Me-262 were built and test-flown, of the 3 designs proposed. In early 1939, The United States National Academy of Sciences provided $1,000 to Theodore von Karman and the Rocket Research Group at the Guggenheim Aeronautical Laboratory to research rocket-assisted takeoff of aircraft. This JATO research was the first rocket research to receive financial assistance from the U.S. government since World War I, when Robert Goddard had an Army contract to develop solid-fuel rocket weapons. In late 1941, von Karman and his team attached several 50-pound thrust, solid-fuel Aerojet JATOs to a lighter coupe plane, and Army Captain Homer Bushy took off on test runs. On the last run they removed the propeller, attached 6 JATO units under the wings, and Bushy was thrust into the air for a short flight, the first American to fly by rocket power only. Both armed services used solid-fuel JATO during the war. Post-World War II. After World War II, JATO became particularly common owing to the low slow-speed thrust of then-current jet engines for assisting heavy aircraft. The prop-engined Avro Shackleton used Armstrong Siddeley Viper turbojets for takeoff. As the takeoff thrust of jet engines has grown, JATO has fallen from favor. It is still used, however, when heavily laden aircraft need to take off from short runways or when operating in hot and high conditions. Two similar zero-length launch experimental programs were carried out by the U.S. Air Force and by the Soviet VVS at around the same time in the late 1950s, both using high-thrust, short-burn duration booster designs of very similar appearance and function. The U.S. Air Force used a modified Republic F-84, designated EF-84G, which used the MGM-1 Matador cruise missile's solid-fuel booster. The Soviet VVS used a modified MiG-19 fighter, designated ADM-30, launched from a special launcher, and using a nearly identical solid-fueled rocket booster design to that of the EF-84G. The F-100 and F-104 were also used for zero-length launch experiments. Operation Credible Sport was a United States military operation plan in late 1980 to rescue hostages held by Iran using C-130 cargo planes modified with rocket engines to enable a very short takeoff and landing. The plan was cancelled after an accident occurred during a test landing when the forward-facing JATO units designed to slow the aircraft fired before the downward-facing units did, causing the aircraft to crash-land. The JATO Junior was an attempt by Aerojet Engineering to introduce smaller JATO unit, a small commercial aircraft, but was blocked by the U.S. Navy Bureau of Aeronautics. Aerojet claimed that the smaller JATO bottle, delivering 250 pounds of thrust for 12 seconds, can help a light private plane that normally requires almost 900 feet of runway to clear a 50-foot high obstacle, could do the same with 300 feet of runway with a JATO Junior unit. The Boeing 727 had provision for Aerojet JATO assist for use in hot and high situations. Urban legend. The JATO rocket car is an urban legend that relates the story of a car equipped with JATO units that is later found smashed into a mountainside. This story is often given as an example of a Darwin Award. It appears to be apocryphal, with no basis in fact. The legend has been examined several times on the Discovery Channel show Mythbusters. For the first attempt in a 2003 pilot episode, the crew replicated the scene and the thrust of the JATO with some commercially available amateur rocket motors. The car did go very fast, outrunning the chase helicopter, but nowhere near the 300 miles per hour reported in the original story, and failed to become airborne. born. The myth was revisited in 2007, using a different configuration of rockets in an attempt to make the car fly. It exploded before reaching the end of its launch ramp. The myth was again revisited in 2013 in the first episode of Mythbusters Series 12 as a celebration for the 10th year on air. A JATO-equipped 1958 Dodge Coronet car on the El Mirage dry lake was used for a TV advertisement to demonstrate the power of their total contact brakes. This was broadcast during the Lawrence Welk Show in the late 1950s. Gallery.